carb-fueled athletes who want to switch to a low or no-carb diet, how should they approach that? That's a good question. I mean, if you're going from a diet high in oxalates to low in oxalates, be very cautious of changing over that sort of thing quickly. I'd probably change out one food at a time. So if you're having spinach smoothies, I'd get rid of that first. Probably the most obvious thing to get rid of. Then get rid of like the almond nuts you have in the morning for breakfast and your porridge. Then just remove foods one by one, but make sure whatever food you take out, that you switch back in with a fat-rich animal-based food source. So just do it one by one. You might do that over a period of maybe 1 to 2 months. I'll be conscious of the fact that your strength might reduce, or training performance might reduce immediately, but this can be quite a quick sort of turnaround in terms of recovering. Like myself, when I started the carnivore diet, I did it pretty quickly, to be fair, from like a carb-based diet to a fat-based diet. And I noticed that within about a week or two, my strength levels were back to normal. So then some people, they might be at the same sort of level for a long time. I think if you do train and perform at quite high level, then you'll be able to adapt to the ketogenic sort of state a lot faster, I believe. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, to give a little background information, Declan originally had sent me an article suggesting that athletes that go lower carbohydrate have reduced performance and also reduced muscle mass. And unfortunately, I couldn't find the whole study through Sci-Hub, Google Scholar, so we just had the abstract to look at. So I apologize, Declan, if you watch this later, how we're kind of reframing this question. The problem with a lot of these studies is they tend to be really, really short term. The one long-term study I'm more familiar with was Finney and Volek, and they looked at cyclists who were carbohydrate-based versus fat-adapted. And the fat-adapted cohort had been on a very, very low ketogenic diet, or very low carb ketogenic diet, for I think about a year. So I kind of posed this question to Jonathan, and I'll give my thoughts here, and I would love to hear what you think. I tend to think if someone is a carb-based athlete, either right before their competitive season is going to start or during their competitive season, and they want to switch to lower carbohydrates, they should probably do that very, very slowly, very gradually, or possibly even wait until that season is over. I believe to get truly fat adapted can take, and it's, as you like to say, how long is a piece of string? Upwards of maybe 6 months of being really, really strict with your diet. But I firmly believe that once somebody is fat adapted and has been doing carnivore for a long enough period of time, that there's zero decrease in athletic performance. But most of the studies that support the position that lower carb impairs athletic performance are very, very short term. They tend to take carb-based athletes and put them on ketogenic diets and track their performance for 4 weeks, oftentimes without even a washout period. So to kind of recapitulate my thoughts, and like I said, Jonathan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If somebody was a carb-based athlete in the middle of the season, I would probably keep their diet the same until the season is over, and then gradually over 1 to 2 months, work them down to a pure carnivore diet and see how that goes all the way leading up to their next competitive season.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point you've made there. I definitely would. I wouldn't even consider it. I'd approach it as a must that you, if you're transitioning to a carnivore or a low carb diet or a no carb diet, even, that you actually do it in your off season phase. I made a video maybe a couple of months ago now about Cristiano Ronaldo's diet. Now he's like probably one of the most elite soccer or football players of all time. So obviously what he's doing has worked up until this point and probably will continue to work. But if we're talking about optimal performance here and health outcomes, he may benefit from the carnivore diet in numerous different ways. I think that if he was to change his diet quickly over the course of his competitive season, he would have a drop off in his performance. I'll be very prudent to consider doing these things very slowly. I think it would be very prudent. So I wouldn't be changing your diet overnight, and it would be sensible to do it over the course of the off-season phase. Now, how long out from your competitive season should you do it? I'd say as far as possible. So if, for example, over, for example, the Christmas sort of period, maybe you have a 2-month sort of gap, maybe a 3-month gap where you're training, you're sort of still keeping fit, but you're not actually competing in an athletic performance event, then you might actually start then. So you say it's from November to January, February time. Come November the 1st, you might actually start the transition then. That's probably when you start the diet change. I think a lot of elite athletes are reluctant to try it because when we look at these people, they are elite already. You know, they've already done a good job and they've been successful in their field already. So it's always tricky to say to someone that has done such a good job that they could be missing out potentially on a different performance benefit. I know the performance benefit I've had is that I no longer have to have multiple meals before the gym. I can train on one small meal in the morning. To maintain good hydration, and I'm not having to sort of get fuel into me throughout the day. You know, my blood glucose is more stable, so I'm more fat adapted. I've got this giant reservoir that I can access at any time of body fat to use as fatty acids to oxidize and use for energy at any point that I need. It's really handy. But yeah, I think, like I said, people will be very reluctant to transition to this sort of diet if they're an elite athlete, and I'd definitely be thinking carefully about doing it in a short transition. Very good.